He is the chosen one. You must see it.
I gave Qui-Gon my word.
Is he the chosen one?
He is.
And it is the Jedi who will stand in the way of peace.
It's not whether or not we fight.
It's how we choose to fight that matters.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
The Force will be with you, always.
And I will not be the last Jedi.
You are listening to The World Between Worlds, a Star Wars podcast where we have been marathoning all of Star Wars in chronological order in lead up to The Rise of Skywalker. Just kidding, we're just leading up to Twilight of the Apprentice, the Season 2 Rebels finale that is so good. So much happens, I can't even, usually I describe, try and sum up what happens. I don't need to. If you're a fan, you know what happens in this episode. Crazy shit! My name is Yates.
My name is Jordan.
My name is Keats, not Kate.
My name is Jessica.
My name is Jack. Is that Jack?
Yeah.
You know, I think we have
Jack
said
from the...
Jack, or included one bit of you in one
Jack's
episode.
Jack's been around.
Yeah,
Jack's been around the block.
Jack, I have a question for you. Have you ever seen Jack, the Francis Ford Coppola movie starring Robin Williams?
Have you seen Jack the Giant Slayer with Nicholas Hoult?
I'm ending this now.
Have you heard of Jackson, the Star Wars character?
We made sure he knows.
Are you friends with Jablinski, a.k.a. Jack Black?
Do you think if I edited in Jack Black in the show that
What's Jable and Jables?
they would come after us?
Dude, would you do a false interview or
Jack Black, what was your favorite part of Twilight of the Apprentice? Shakadoo, shakadoo. Back on track, Jack on track. This is a very much beloved episode of Star Wars Rebels, and with very good reason. I have been hyped for it since very early on in the podcast. So much of consequence happens. Obviously it's a season finale, so we've got that whole element to it. It is kind of wrapping up some of the stuff that they've been talking about throughout the season. But it's our first time checking in with the main Star Wars story in a good while. Many heavy hitters from the main Star Wars story are here and accounted for. So let's do it. Let's talk Twilight of the Apprentice.
The Sith rely on their passion for their strength.
And the Jedi don't.
The Jedi are selfless.
It's hard not to let feelings turn into attachment and pain.
If one is to understand the great mystery, you must embrace a larger view of the Force.
How did I choose to win? The question is.
We already chose. We're going to fight.
Find Malachor.
So our Jedi heroes approach this planet and the temple on the planet in search of something that's going to help them get rid of their Sith or Sith Inquisitor problem. And they don't really know what they're looking for, but I would say the story is, Rebels is Ezra's story, and Ezra goes through a big journey in this. What do we think is Ezra's frame of mind right now?
This is his first time seeing it. It's our first time seeing it. So pretty much everything that we experience as the viewer is what he's feeling. So
I think he's cocky.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of
he realized it too in the second episode.
Yeah. He's I really need more training. I love that line. I think that he's taking it almost as this is another mission.
Yeah, definitely.
And he doesn't realize how serious this is because he's isolated from all the Jedi lore and which is kind of a good thing about his character, but in this case, he doesn't.
He's out of his depth.
Yeah, he's out of his depth.
And also,
he's far too trusting.
And also, Kanan and Ahsoka have refused to tell Ezra what Malachor even is.
Why is Rex so worried? What does he know that I don't?
Malachor has always been off limits to Jedi.
Why?
Old legends. Stories told to us as younglings in the temple.
There's always a bit of truth in legends.
It's weird. Their whole like mission for the episode is basically like, let's just go there and see what happens. Like the Force is telling us to go there.
Well,
so.
it was Yoda that told them, so I think Yoda already saw what was gonna happen.
Right, but they don't know what's gonna happen. They're just like, okay, like we're supposed to go here.
Well, that's what they said. They
just
trust
like
Yoda.
find out what happens.
I also really liked the moment where like, so they're looking at, you know, the battlefield and like, it's like Pompeii. It's like all of these like, these warriors that have been frozen in ash. And they're talking about like, oh, there was a great battle here. And Ezra's like, the Jedi won, right? And it's just like, dude, like, look, like this isn't about like winning. Like, look at all the people that died. And even that's just like connecting to what Yoda said in the previous episode, which really begs the question. I mean, what are they even supposed to find here? Because there's so much shit here. Like, there's so much like, are they supposed to find the weapon? Are they supposed to learn not to use the weapon?
I think they were meant to find the holocron, but like just the holocron and then dip and then use that to learn.
It was very cool. Like, I liked having it be like an episode in a Sith Temple. Just that, like, that was great world building to me.
Yeah,
of, like,
definitely.
Seeing, and you do get to see a lot more of like what the Jedi temples look like what their vibe is, what their energy is, what the Sith temples look like all of that.
The sense of mystery and like how old everything is, and like also, you know, creepy in that.
Just seeing more of like the Sith religion is very interesting and compelling, and then like how it gets brought to life with these like young Jedi characters who are like being introduced to the religion. It's like introducing like a young kid to like conspiracy theories or shit like that. They like are starting to be like, oh shit, like is the world all different than I thought it was? Like, also, can I just say like the whole design of like them pulling up to the planet and it's just like this like gray, like dead looking huge moon with like two other moons like directly like, it was so cool.
That. And I loved when before they fell, like just like the surface, and then there's like random like pillars like sticking out.
Yeah,
it made me think of
like
2001.
Yeah,
you saw it too.
Yeah, it was very like eerie, strange, desolate, like a good place for a place like a Sith Temple.
There is a fuck ton of shit that happens in this episode, but it feels like you're watching a movie, just how jam-packed with stuff it is. The episode in itself feels very mythological, like some of the bigger stuff that Star Wars has always done, and obviously also involves like some of the main characters outside of the Rebels crew, and all of Star Wars are like wrapped into this episode as well. So there's that whole added element to it. This episode could very well, I'd certainly call it indulgent, but I would also say like, just like describing what happens in the episode, it could easily feel like this is like a pure vehicle for fan service. But, you know, I don't think anyone would say after having watched it that it actually felt like that. Everything had like a logical reason to be included.
I mean,
but Jordan,
there's times.
Definitely it felt. I would say it felt indulgent, but I didn't feel like it was unmotivated. But how did you?
It didn't feel excessive.
It didn't feel excessive.
I feel like most people would be like, "Whoa, it was like 8 red lightsabers. That's so fucking cool." Like all that stuff was just like so ridiculous. Like I literally thought I was gonna have like a seizure at one point. It was just so much like spinning red lightsabers. That actually got kind of annoying for me. And Darth Vader looking badass on a TIE fighter, that could be fan service. But hey man, that's when I was like fully invested.
Yeah.
Like everything else.
I mean, fan service doesn't mean bad. It just means fan service. Fan service can be good.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's bad.
I wouldn't call it fan service because it didn't feel like pointless and like disconnected. It just felt like really good content. Like, I guess it could have been fan service, but to me, it just felt like, I don't know, some of the best Star Wars content that, like, we've seen. Like,
I feel like this is something I've probably said, like, once or twice, but it just feels like I've said it all the time. But, like, this episode specifically describes how I feel about just the whole show in general. Like, the Star Wars Rebels show doesn't feel like something that was made for, like, for the purposes of, like, making money or showing Star Wars again to a new generation. Like, it feels like something that has been cemented since Star Wars began.
I would even say that's kind of why I asked the question earlier, because like you described the episode and it's just like, oh, great story. This is how you make a great story. You throw Darth Vader, Darth Maul, Ahsoka, Sith Temple from Knights of the Old Republic, and our new characters
and
in the
blender. And do you know
blender.
how easy that could be to mess that up?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's just like, that's like, it feels like when you describe it that way, like it does feel like it could be like fan service, but it's
It is fan service. It's just not bad fan service.
It is fan service, and but they go about it in a way that's like obviously motivated by the story, but I feel like we've said it a million times. It just feels like once you've seen it, it's just of course the way it happened. Yeah. I definitely think as far as the lightsaber fights, I agree. It's like primo lightsaber fight. It's like Revenge of the Sith. Like there's a lightsaber fight every 5 minutes. But like for me,
I don't mind that. Though.
I like lightsaber fights and that shit's cool. But like I agree. Like at times, only when I like stepped out and like removed myself from it, I'm like, okay, this is like the 9th minute dedicated to a lightsaber fight. Like I get it. It's a lot. But I also felt like, at least from like an action storytelling point of view, like every time a lightsaber fight started, it's a totally different setup than the lightsaber fight that happened previously, and it usually always like advanced the story forward.
Yeah, there's so much spinning. Like enough with the spinning, man.
Yeah, I thought so that annoying. The lightsabers being like little helicopters that they like moved around on.
Chill.
That I was not a fan.
You weren't? That's a really controversial opinion.
You're so wrong.
No.
They're so badass.
Are you joking?
I'm not fucking joking. Why would I fucking be joking about this? I'm literally the most serious person on this podcast.
Okay, and that is where the whole thing you fell apart. Yeah, everyone hates the helicopter lightsabers. They suck so hard.
It's literally
so goofy looking. Yeah, I would say the fan base ranges from indifferent to not at all.
Dude, and it made the noise too. It was like, we are the Sith, and we are on the helicopter. We are looking down at Ahsoka. She is fighting Darth Vader currently right now. Yo, Seven Sister, are you capturing this?
Using the power of lightsaber beams to have like helicopter traffic cams and
my God.
Well, it's like you're diluting the concept of lightsabers like so much.
Yeah.
Like
it's an energy beam.
Next?
It doesn't throw wind. Like
it doesn't throw wind. That makes no sense.
I just want to know like truly what is next. Like, is it like let's capitalize off of this with like a cooking show? We're gonna have like lightsaber cooking or like the lightsaber's a knife.
Lightsabers can do anything
chopping
now.
Vegetables. Like the lightsaber's like cooking marmarshmallows. Like it's gonna cook a pot roast because like that's cool.
I'm not a fan.
I'm just imagining a lightsaber like holding up a pig like over a fire.
Lightsaber instant pot. Lightsaber live, laugh, love coaster.
The fact of the matter is, it looks dumb. It like just doesn't, and it also just breaks from what we know about lightsabers already.
And they just
it trivialized.
They were probably inspired because like they're supposed to be katanas, so like they wouldn't be mad. They would be madder within the Star Wars universe.
Hey, but guess what? They're not katanas, so they're not matter.
They just like do it a lot.
Good and bad, double-sided, two-sided coin of this. The bad side is that like, why is like they're just using this now? But the good side is this shitty thing is only appears in this moment and we never see it again. So
because they realized how bad it was.
That's it. We never see helicopter lightsabers again.
JJ,
I mean, I don't like them, but it feels like this is like the biggest sin that Rebels has committed. From your guys' POV.
Definitely.
Well, I mean, like even in like all of Star Wars, like that they've seen of Rebels.
Yeah, it's definitely the thing I always go to.
It's
when
the
I
low
talk about
point.
stupid things.
Okay.
We can also say definitively all the just I don't even think we'll include it, but all the Inquisitors are dead. No more
Really?
or at least like for the purposes of the story, there might be more Inquisitors out there, but they never show up again.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they like moved the plot forward.
Me too.
The Inquisitors like sucked. Well, they didn't suck, but like I don't know.
Yeah, the way they told it, they exhausted like our goodwill.
They're so chumpy.
Yeah.
That's how I'm gonna call them.
Chumpy.
They're the chumpies.
Yo, you think there's an Ewok Inquisitor?
Yes.
Confirmed. And I liked the main Inquisitor character, but
the concept
whole
is
second
cool.
season was just like
they did not execute it well
Exactly.
at all. I don't want Inquisitors like jumping down from the sky and then maniacally laughing and then turning on their spinning lightsabers and flying away. Like,
they're like never successful, and you never feel like they're going to
not
be
a threat.
successful. Like they're just all like very I don't know.
It's a pure their existence is like a pure like plot contrivance, like to create an enemy for 100%. The rebels to go up to that they're
to lead
like
up
scaled.
To Darth Vader.
Exactly, but
it's like
they
video
came
game.
up. They came up with good reasoning and like a good philosophy for like reasoning to including them in the story. So like the technical reasons why they're there is fine. But like the actual execution, like what we see of the Inquisitors is just boring.
I mean,
Left a scar on Ezra's face, and that's the most damage they ever did.
I mean, I like the Grand Inquisitor. I generally felt he was a threat in the beginning, you know?
Yeah.
Also, like, Ezra wasn't trained at all, so, you know.
It was like he was the right villain for that story.
Yeah.
And then, like, by season 1's end, they've kind of, like, outgrown this whole
And I don't even know
Yeah.
if they're trying to be serious, but whenever they show up on screen, like, I laugh
It's just
because it's
like,
hilarious.
when will it be over? Like,
Shortly after their first run-in with an Inquisitor, Ezra is separated from the group, finds himself underground in the company of a strange, hooded figure who says he wants to help. Of course, we can make out some tattoos on this person's face, and who should it be but Darth Maul, formerly Darth, now just Maul, hatching up some new scheme.
Look, I'm sorry. Okay, I wish I could help you, but I have to get back to my friends.
Perhaps I could help you.
I doubt that.
Why are you here?
I'm not gonna tell you that.
You came for the same reason I did years ago. You seek knowledge.
It's in the temple, isn't it?
And I know the secret way to get inside, but I'm too old. I need help to open the door.
I'm surprised. Like, how long has he been there?
He
like,
said
why has
years,
he been
but
so
he could be lying.
unsuccessful
Yeah.
up until this point?
He said he was in there for years, but we don't know that. He could be lying. And you need two to open the door, so that's why he never opened the door. And the Inquisitor is hunting him down.
Presumably a bunch of shit has happened between Solo and now. I mean, I
assume, like,
I assume the Empire like found out Darth Maul was like
Yeah.
in charge of this gang. Then they went and like attacked him and tried to break up that syndicate. And then Darth Maul ended up like as an outcast or something.
Because
But
that's the whole point of the
know.
Inquisitor hunting them down, you know?
Yeah.
They want to get Maul out of the picture. And I don't even know if they told the Inquisitors that it's Maul, a former Sith, because they just call him the Shadow.
There's just something kind of like random about it. Like, I can never find any like continuity in his character. Like, every time I'm like, oh, that's Darth Maul. Like, that's what he's about. I'm just like, like, okay, is that really Darth Maul? Because he's talking way different and like seems so incredibly different than like the Darth Maul I've been trying to like pin down.
People change.
People do change, but it just seems like every time his character seems like very different to the point
It's like
where
we don't
like
get to
they
see
don't.
the evolution.
It just seems like almost to the point that they don't know what to do with him, and
Well,
I don't get his character.
So it's like on the like brink of like fan service because they just keep bringing him back
right
because
to like
he's a
do
fan
whatever.
favorite.
Like they
Yeah.
keep bringing him back to like fill whatever like is they feel is missing, and it's like, oh, that's Darth Maul. Like that makes it more cool. And really like Darth Maul when he's like in the like trash fire with the crazy fucking snake. That's awesome. But then I feel like they never make him like consistent enough.
One thing to keep in mind is that Solo, and this is just like a meta thing, was that Solo was like made way after this. Because I don't think like the whole gangster thing in Solo was like something that was probably put into consideration when they were doing this.
Yeah.
I think like originally it was the Clone Wars ended, and then Darth Maul just spent the rest of his life being a bum and ends up where we see him now. But now there's like more layers to it with this whole gangster element.
I like
Solo.
the inconsistency.
I do
it.
too,
It's
to
like
be
they
honest.
just like yo, how wacky can we get? Like, so he was like a Sith, and then he was like a deranged like lunatic, and then he became like a gang boss, and now he's like a hermit. Like,
Yeah, I really liked it. I think it's the best version of Maul that we've had so far, just in terms of like intrigue and like there being. He seemed more like sort of like an everyday person at this point. Like the sort of the mystique around his character kind of just gets stripped away, and he kind of just becomes a guy that's just really good at killing people. And I know that Sam Witwer, he said the biggest difference in playing him as an old man versus like in Clone Wars was that like there's like a slight more tinge of sincerity to the way he talks. Even if he's faking like his feelings towards like Ezra, like or like a respect for them and like wanting to, you know, work with the Jedi, like there's something about like how more sincere he is in this versus
I mean, we see like Agent Callus get stuck in a cavern for like 10 minutes and he's like already panicking and he's like level 1 evil. So like someone who's like level 10 evil, like Darth Maul, like imagine like how much shit he had to have gone through for years on end.
But he's already been like in a dark cavern, like
his
losing
whole life.
his mind.
Yeah.
I like hear everything you guys are saying and it all makes sense, but there's some like mischaracterization of him, and I think also his voice, because
he did sound stupid
seem
different.
like him at all. He's like this like Ben Kingsley, like talking this like high British accent, like he's like fucking Professor Snape or something.
I'm not gonna lie,
like,
I totally
who
feel
the
you.
fuck?
When he first started talking, I was just like, I do not remember him sounding this tame. Like he sounded like just like a normal person.
For me as a viewer, like it felt like disjointed somehow, of like I wasn't able to like follow along in his character progression, because it felt like every time he comes in, he's like plopped in, and I have to just be like, oh.
Well, and I guess this is just a good point, like in the fact that we're like marathoning all this in general, is just like this comes up like frequently, where like, I mean, there's sort of like an incongruence in character, like with Lando. I mean, that was like the main thing we talked about. Like, oh, Lando's in like this weird, like totally different than Empire and totally different than Solo, but we've got these small little threads connecting it. And even with Ahsoka too, because like Ahsoka is like a completely different character at this point when she walks in. She's like, she went from like the student with like an independent spirit to like fucking Gandalf off screen. And it's like just one of those things that's
But
like,
I find with Ahsoka, I'm glad you brought that up, because it like totally works. Like I buy it.
Right.
But with the whole Darth Maul thing, like I don't understand like where he's coming from. Is he just like a monster type of character, or is he like more like Palpatine?
I think
like,
probably
the way I see it, it's like he always wants the same thing. Like there's always still the same like central motivator, like pushing him through life.
I was apprenticed to the most powerful being in the galaxy once. I was destined to become so much more.
Maul is like on the same like plot line he was on in Clone Wars, which is basically like, how am I going to become like rule of two again? Like, how am I going to like get back on top in this like never ending like fight to the death that is like being a Sith? Even though he says, like, I'm not Sith anymore, like, I hate the Sith, I feel like he's still going by that same playbook.
You know, it's how he was raised, so, like,
it's like the only one he
naturally,
knows.
it's the only way he knows, kind of. Like, that philosophy is just naturally going to come out in, like, oh, how do I find success? Or, like, how do I be happy in this world? And it's just, like, there's only one way, like, you've been taught to do that. But, like, we're at this point now where every other thing he's tried to do has failed. And so this is like, he even says it like, this is the end game. Like, this is him, like, desperate, like, living, like, underground and, like, hiding from the Empire. He's smart enough now where, like, he knows, like, he can't strong-arm his way out of any situation. And also very literally, like, and this is a detail I really love, that just, like, he's, like, genuinely afraid of Darth Vader. Like, he knows he can't beat Darth Vader. In a very literal sense, like, he's not going to be able to fight his way out of, like, this whole Empire chasing him situation. So in order to adapt, he has to sort of, like, develop a silver tongue. So Ezra and Maul, they hook up together. Ezra is, like, initially trepidatious, but, like, they have to go into the temple together.
I can't. It's too heavy.
Your anger is a wellspring. You must use it.
But a Jedi's never supposed to act out of emotion.
Your passions give you strength, and through strength you gain power. You have seen it. You feel it. You must break your chains.
when they were opening the doors like together, I don't remember there being so many. I thought like it was just like two, and then they were like inside, and just like the difficulty of that, and thinking about like a circumstance of it going wrong made me really, really anxious. Like just thinking
like when
about
the first door closes and then they're like confined to this super small space.
Not that. Well, that yeah, but also like Ezra looked really tired towards the end. And
like what if he dropped it?
What if like he just couldn't open that and then like
then they can't go back.
They can't go back, and I was just like looking at it from like an outside perspective of like kind of the details of how it's made. Like they're just trapped in between so many blocks, and it would literally just crush them. And I don't know, just thinking that made me really uncomfortable.
I thought that was the coolest bit. There's a lot of cool bits about the world building of the Sith Temple. I thought that was cool, but like also just like it just said so much about the Sith. I think just like in a really abstract way that I thought was awesome.
The dark side fights without mercy, without remorse. If you want to be victorious, you need to find the same strength inside you.
In the Jedi Temple, you go and you're like in a dream sequence, essentially. You're being taught within your own head. You're allowing your environments to control you. And then here in the Sith Temple, it's all about controlling reality and bending it to your will.
Wow, that's a great
That
point.
is really cool, yeah.
In the Jedi Temple, like, you go and you sit and you meditate, and then, like, a door opens. But, like, and that's, like, what the Jedi, like, you need to do.
And then the Sith Temple is like a sweat lodge. You have to, like, exercise yourself until you can't breathe.
A sweat lodge with a spiked ceiling that comes down.
Well, not only that, but it forces you to, like, oh, you want to get in here? You have to, like, be evil. You have to, like, tap into the evilness of the Force, open it up, and then close it behind you. And, like, it's going to trap you in here, and you're going to have to do that multiple times. Like, you're going to need to commit to the dark side. It's like brainwashing.
And that's exactly what happens to Ezra. I mean, like, he's like...
it's not like Maul couldn't open the door because he's so tired or because he's so old. It's because he didn't have a partner to do it with.
And the more steps you take into evil, like, the harder it is to, like, go back out, because you see the doors, like, closing behind you. You don't know how to leave.
I forget what it was specifically that you told me. I think it was when we were conspiring about all of, like, the Mortis meetings and stuff, and how you were saying, like, the brother who's the evil one, he never speaks a lie. He's, like, always telling the truth, and that's how he always gets his way. And Maul is the exact same way in this episode. Just, like, everything he says is, like, a fact. And I just think that's, like, really solid, perfect writing for his character.
Yeah, and I think it's also, like, Ezra wants to get in the temple, right? They all want to get into the temple. That's why they think they're there. What Maul is telling Ezra is true in a very literal sense, which is what Jessica was saying before. Like, in order to survive here, you literally just need to tap into the dark side. Otherwise, you're going to die here. Like, this is meant to weed you out. And so in a very literal sense, like, the things like Maul's telling him, like, stoke, your anger and your aggression, like, in order to open this stuff, you have to do that.
Well, did anyone else feel like, Ezra, like, why the fuck are you, like, going off alone? Like, why are you trusting this guy? Like, why are you talking to this guy? Like, why are you going deeper into this, like, temple? Like, yeah, it just so showed me, like, the differences between him and myself. I would never do something like that, but I think that because they're Jedi, like, they are very brave and they feel like they can get themselves out of any situation.
Also, Maul's, like, playing up, like, how old he is. Like, he seems like he would actually be harmless, like, at least in terms of a physical confrontation.
He throws away that cane real quick.
What fun! What fun!
For me, more so than Ezra could be coerced so easily, I was just more surprised with how quickly the show sort of pivots to Ezra's susceptible to the dark side, and, like, he's thinking more and more about the dark side. So the episode where they go into the Jedi Temple before kind of just brings in, oh yeah, be worried about Ezra falling to the dark side, and then now this episode is like the escalation of that. So I guess they did the legwork in setting it up in the previous episode, but
I mean, he pretty much goes to that planet with the mindset of, I'll do whatever it takes to destroy the Inquisitors.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
And I think every cocky kid, talented young Jedi is susceptible of going to the dark side. Right. Like, Ahsoka was susceptible, Anakin was, like, they all are. And I think only someone like Kanan is not susceptible anymore, because he kind of already has had his, like, dance with the dark side, and now he's, like, much more of a, like, play it safe character. But I don't think he was like that when he was, like, young.
Yeah. And yeah, Ezra is, like, a young kid, like, and like you said, he is being exposed to, like, things for the first time. I'm sure Kanan, like, he didn't explain the dark side, like, in an extremely compelling way. I mean, in terms of, like, understanding why some people do choose the dark side, he's like, this is what the dark side is. You don't do that because it's bad. And we talk about that before, like, how the Jedi just don't know, like, have a hard time, like, conceptualizing or trying to understand or empathize with the dark side.
Well, we also get to see that episode from season 1 where Ezra actually channels the dark side, and he's kind of just like, what's happening to me?
Yeah.
And then in here,
that's the only
essentially
time
the same thing happens, but Maul is there to, like, put his hand on his shoulder and be like, everything's okay. This is normal.
Also, like, you see part of that, like, Ezra can be frustrated with Kanan. You know, every child is frustrated with their parent because they want their parent to, like, love them and see the best in them and like tell them how amazing they are and see all their progress and how good they are. But then the parent's job is not to do that. The parent's job is to like push them along and like make them even better. So Ezra gets like, you know, understandably fed up with that. And then here comes this like new mentor into the picture, just like Darth Sidious with Anakin and Obi-Wan. And it's just like telling him how great he is and like everything, you know. It's just manipulation of a child for your own purposes.
I really like the detail that when he first meets Maul, that Maul says that he's had to scavenge for years, and then that's like what gets Ezra to like kind of sympathize for him.
Oh, I didn't think about that, but that is cool.
I think what also kind of helps Ezra, you know, lean on Darth Maul and trust him quickly was, I can't remember the lines, but there's 2 lines that he basically, the same thing that Ahsoka told him.
To defeat your enemy, you have to understand them.
To defeat your enemy, you must know your enemy, even practice their beliefs.
Yeah, my master wouldn't approve of that last part.
Then he is doomed to fail.
After this whole war and everything's been fractured, there are these people who are like, they're force wielders, but they're on like the margins, and it's interesting.
Kanan and Ezra are like the real Jedi here, and Vader is like the real Sith in this episode. But you have Ahsoka and Maul who are like super important to the episode, but they're both like outcasts.
Yeah.
But I will say that like having Ahsoka and Darth Maul like being more of these like marginalized Force users in the episode, they're more like unpredictable. Someone like Darth Maul would blind Kanan.
Where's Ezra?
You mean my apprentice?
Ezra's already making his way up the temple to turn that shit on. Darth Maul is ready to turn on everyone, and he does so by immediately blinding our favorite Jedi, Kanan.
Oh my god, that is so... Just how the whole screen went red.
Yeah, that part gives me goosebumps every time.
Fun fact, when Kanan gets blinded and puts on the helmet and is like about to fight Darth Maul.
Oh, right.
He's blind and he's holding his lightsaber just like Zatoichi, which is a like samurai film about a blind swordsman.
Oh,
and
wow.
he's like literally standing the way like Zatoichi stands in the movies.
I loved
so I thought
the
that
way
was sick.
he was holding his lightsaber too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure Dave Filoni said that was directly like, yeah, that was 100% like they wanted a blind Jedi like Zatoichi.
Really?
Yeah, he was doing it for you, Jordan.
Thanks.
Do you have
doing
some
it for
culture?
Jordan in the World Between Worlds podcast.
No, thanks, Dave.
Well, I liked how they didn't like demasculate him. Ahsoka was just like, yeah, go fight him.
Yeah, like Kanan's 100% got this.
You just got blinded, like fight, you know, the guy who just did it to you. And he like took him in 0.1 second. Yeah. And I love that too.
Yeah, Maul was like, yo, I'm gonna make this quick, and then Kanan's like, I'm gonna make it quicker. And just like wrecked him.
Yeah, it was
amazing.
It was
and how
great.
you could like the way that
It totally makes you
put
reevaluate what you're capable of. Like taking one of your senses away.
Jack, do you have something to say?
I mean, like throughout like all of the Star Wars media film, you always see Jedi trained in like using the Force without their eyes. You know?
I suggest you try it again, Luke. This time, let go your conscious self and act on instinct.
With the blast shield down, I can't even see. How am I supposed to fight?
Your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them.
I loved how they put you in his position where you can like feel what he's feeling, of how he's like so extrasensory, you know? I don't know how they did that, but they did such a good job of that.
I mean, we talk like Jedi being like present in the moment, not letting distractions fuck with you. Dude
like,
lost his eyes. Like, that is really messed up.
It's
but
like do or die. Like
yeah.
in a way, it's like at that point, you're even like stronger because there's no like bullshit anymore. The more vulnerable he is, the more strong he is.
Really, the whole point of the episode, it seems, is like, are you willing to like kill someone in order to like win? Which is like Maul forces Ezra to try and kill the seventh sister, and then he kills her for him. And the whole point was like once they get to the temple, to turn on the super weapon. Presumably Maul wants to just like blow up Coruscant or something like that. But like Ahsoka's not a Jedi. She's not there on a Jedi mission. And like Ezra and Kanan, like in this episode, they make it pretty clear they don't want to, they're not going to go and kill the Inquisitors. They're like sort of like scaling back and being like, how far should I be going here? But Ahsoka's like, yeah, I'll have to kill Vader just because she has to, and she's not a Jedi.
Perhaps this child will confess what you will not.
I was beginning to believe I knew who you were behind that mask. But it's impossible. My master could never be as vile as you.
Anakin Skywalker was weak. I destroyed him.
Then I will avenge his death.
Revenge is not the Jedi way.
I am no Jedi.
Coming into the show with hindsight, it just completely holds a new standard to what kind of power Star Wars can hold. Like, this is like top 2 probably favorite moments for me in all of Star Wars, and it's an animated kids show. Yeah. If you have good writers, you can have the best possible storytelling. I'm talking about this finale as a whole, but I'm also talking about how much time went into the Vader and Ahsoka fight. Like, that was like 10 years of dedicated time. I think there's even like evidence with like Dave Filoni talking about in interviews, like by the end of the first season of Clone Wars, he knew that he wanted Ahsoka to fight Darth Vader. And that was like, I think this is like, 8 years later that this episode came out?
Yeah.
I felt like it was like the true purpose of her character now. Here in this episode, like, you know, you always hear like, oh, Ahsoka's such a fan favorite. I'm like, yeah, she's a cool character, but like, whatever. But now in this episode, I'm like, holy fuck, like, this is such a cool character that's been introduced. Like, it's so cool seeing the apprentice of Anakin, who's like a legit, like, amazing good guy, hero, like, amazing fighter. Like, I love all of her fight scenes. And she's, like, fighting Anakin, her master, and they have, like, this very unique bond. And I really like what they do with her character.
Whenever, like, during that whole scene, or honestly through the whole episode, but, like, during that scene specifically, like, now when I watch it, there's just, like, this voice in my head just saying over and over again, like, oh my god, she's so brave. Oh my god, she's so brave. Oh my god, she's so brave. It's so cool. And I guess that's one thing I like about all the Jedi, like, and I think I said it when we were talking about Sith with just Obi-Wan and Yoda, just, like, they get the worst predicaments and, like, just the worst circumstances, and they're the characters that just have to say, like, I have to keep going, and Ahsoka like has to keep going.
Also, like, aside from Obi-Wan, like, probably Ahsoka is like the most even matched character to Darth Vader at this point. Like,
Yeah,
she's
definitely.
the closest person to Anakin, so she could like totally predict all of his moves and stuff. Like, and you even see it throughout this fight. Like, she even catches him off guard like more than once.
The first time, like, really, Vader feels like vulnerable, and like the fight feels like, wow,
and
this
it's
is really close.
And
it's a truly believable fight.
Yeah, and it's so like perfectly contrast with the beginning of the season where we're all just like, yeah, Darth Vader, like, there's no way he's unbeatable. He's an unbeatable character, and here we're like actually seeing him with someone who can take him head on.
Extremely powerful moment when she actually gets him. Because
that's always fucks me up.
He's set up to be this like ungettable character. So when you can get him, and the way that she got him was revealing the part of his face and his eye. And this was amazing storytelling that I feel like I wish I had more with Maul, is that continuity and that bridge connecting the old Anakin with the Anakin that we see in the new stories, where his face looks like the old Anakin, but it also looks like the beginnings of the Anakin that you see in like the original trilogy, where it's all like gooey and like soft and like gross and shit.
You know what actually got it for me? Like, obviously the story is great. It's beautiful.
The score is great.
The score is great. Everything about this was great. But it was Ashley Eckstein's, how you say it?
Yeah.
Ashley Eckstein's performance and I don't know why, all she does is like go, ah, like that or something when she slices him, but just like the emotion in her voice, that's what finally broke me, and I just started crying. Like, I felt myself swelling up the entire time. It was just like so beautiful in that moment.
Also,
she's been playing the character for 10 years.
And she got it down.
Also,
obviously.
Hearing James Earl Jones bring it all back.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely felt like this was like his best performance as Vader, like in the show, was like this moment where it was very believable and very
Vader
serious.
was super, like, I feel like he gets more believable and more, like, there's more continuity to him, like, the more that they do stuff with it, you know, and I know that was something I was complaining about before, is like, from, like, Anakin to Vader, like, not really seeing it, but, like, having this, like, connective tissue, as you were saying, like, it really helps.
Yeah, and it makes sense, too, that, like, he would, like, turn on to Vader and then try to, like, push everything from his old life behind him, but then it comes back to haunt him later in.
Well, and think about being Vader and seeing Ahsoka, who you still have these strong... It's like your child. It's like Luke, except even more so in
And
a
he,
way.
like, couldn't kill
He
her.
actually knew her. Yeah.
He couldn't, like, kill her.
He
just,
couldn't
like,
kill
he pushed
her.
her off of the ledge. And he just walked away from her.
He couldn't kill her, and she couldn't kill him. And
It was it's kind of the same deal with Obi-Wan and Anakin, except you get the impression that Anakin really does want to kill Obi-Wan. So it's also just like...
Well, because Anakin is jealous.
Yeah.
He hates Obi-Wan.
But Ahsoka was the person he took care of and like helped, you know, raise like a young adult. I feel like the implication this season is that like Vader's goal was always to find Ahsoka, and maybe also through Ahsoka find Obi-Wan. But we don't get enough clarification on that, but I feel like that's the case.
I think that you see here, like, the foreshadowing of, even though it already happened, it's still setting up the foreshadowing of what would happen with Vader and Luke. Because there's obviously still good in him. Like, in killing Ahsoka, he could have cemented for himself, like, I am bad.
Yeah, right.
But he couldn't do it, because he still is, he's not fully bad.
I feel like the moment where like Ahsoka does say like, I won't leave you this time, and like Anakin's like is 100% like there's like a pause, like he doesn't immediately say I'm gonna kill you. Of course he does.
I was literally just thinking about the pause.
But like there's like a moment of like I really feel like you're really supposed to be like Vader is really soaking in like, hey, this is like an opportunity. This is a person that does really care about me, and I know she cares about me.
I think they even animated his eyes to kind of just like look down at the floor in regret.
Yeah,
for just
definitely.
like a split second.
But then he like recommits. But like, yeah, their relationship is so interesting, and there's still more that's not said that I would like to see said at some point.
That score on top of that wide shot, where like Vader's cloak is just like flowing with the breeze, is just like. Jordan just passed out on me.
Just seeing the way, like, I never felt
that
more
is
that
iconic
his
to Star Wars already.
That his costume was more, like, it was so brought to life.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is a controversial opinion because whenever I've said it online, people have been like, shut the fuck up. But Vader's design is my favorite Vader. I think
absolutely,
he looks so fucking cool. And
agreed.
I like that he's like so tall and thin. He's almost like a basketball player. Like he's like really like, I feel like intimidating in the way that like Vader in the original trilogy like isn't.
You can even see the
it's totally
you can see the
different.
anger in his helmet.
Yeah, it's more angular. It looks like the original Ralph McQuarrie Vader design, which is what they based it off of. It's just more angular and just more sinister expression.
And just it's so it has an expression to it. It's not just like a robot helmet.
And I think that even makes it more powerful when, you know, the face is so twisted looking. Yeah. And then just to see a human face underneath that and just the eye, you know, like
beautiful.
That was perfect. And also you saw it with like Darth Maul's eyes. Like there's something I mean, in a way, like, there's a lot of, like, eye imagery in this episode between Darth Maul
and
then Kanan's eyes.
Eyes.
Ends with Ezra's eyes.
Yeah, my God.
Wow, yeah. I guess in general, I mean, the main character of the show is Ezra. Ezra, like, you know, underwent this test, and I guess, you know, in a sense he failed because he, you know, allowed Darth Maul to, like, influence him and, like, do exactly what he wanted. At the same time, like, he still walks away with Kanan, and, like, you know, that love is still there. Like, I asked at the beginning what Ezra's state of mind is, but, like, at this point, like, what's Ezra's state of mind? This is, you know, a lot has happened, and we get that final shot of him, like, considering the dark side.
I love the ending to this episode. Like, it just felt so, like, epic. I love when, like, in the storytelling, they take a risk, and they, like, change something to bring it to the next level of storytelling.
I mean, definitely this episode, or these episodes, was like the perfect example of that. Just like everything sort of, the stakes get raised for everything, where you can have that great moment at the end where it's just very simple. They walk back, and then just the whole cast of the show just reacts to them being back and everything being different.
Yeah.
At a very literal level, like, it's like, oh, they're just literally just staring at each other. But because so much has happened, like, it's really like a deep moment.
Their reaction was amazing.
I definitely think the show is different from this point out, but like, I mean, I guess it kind of has to be, like just with how Kanan and Ezra have changed, like, in this moment.
Well, I feel like Kanan got so much more powerful after this whole experience, even though he got weaker, and Ezra is, like, so much more potentially vulnerable now, like, because he's, like, has this, like, secret that he's harboring, and, like...
I think he's in, like, a super conflicted mindset, because it's all about his perception of Kanan, because he's, like, I think you're right, I think he blames himself for getting Kanan blinded, but also he's in the state of mind that he doesn't want to not trust Kanan, but he wants to go beyond Kanan and listen to what Maul's perspective is, because maybe he thinks that Kanan knows less than he's leading on.
Okay, that's interesting. I noticed this time watching it that when, the quiet moment after the temple is blown up and it's just Ezra and Kanan in the ship, that Ezra is like, Kanan's like, don't worry, it's over. And then Ezra's like really messed up. I mean, because he assumes Ahsoka to be dead. But then also, like, when he looks at Kanan, and Kanan's wearing the mask, like, he looks into Kanan, and that's when he starts crying. He's just like, I don't know, I kind of got that as like, oh shit, like, what happened there was really scary, but part of it is still with me here. And we even talked about this in the other episode when he found out his parents were dead, and we're like, does he blame him for that? Because it was also a situation where he didn't plan on his parents being, killed, but like, it was a chain of events that he caused, like, sort of led to that as well. And that how for other characters too, like Anakin, like that would be like it. Like if Anakin got Obi-Wan blinded, Anakin would fucking lose it.
Maybe he's like trying to dive into the dark side to try to maybe suppress the blame and the guilt that he's like putting on himself. Because I think for sure he's definitely blaming himself for everything that occurred.
I think that he's like hubristic. Like I think that he has a lot of the same qualities as Anakin in him. I mean, not completely, but a young kid who's like, yeah, like, my dad, like, says this, but, like, I want to, like, go against that still.
Yeah, I think it's just naturalistic for you to want to go against, like, what your authoritarian figures in your life, like, tell you what to do, when you're, like, that age. Because obviously you grow out of that.
I think that he will grow out of it.
And Maul's enticing.
The dark side is enticing.
So all three of us know where it's going, and obviously we've said 1,000,001 good things about the show already. Jessica, what are you...
Same question.
Yeah, I mean,
because we asked that in the season 1 finale.
We do, yeah. We oftentimes do. This is our go-to question. What are you excited for next? But really, like, I feel like it's especially relevant here, where I feel like a lot has changed, and the repercussions of what has changed have not been fully explored, like, in this episode. So what are your thoughts on where it's going, or like what intrigues you at this point?
I just really want to see like how the fallout from Kanan and Ezra's changes and how that develops, but then also how the other members of the Ghost Crew interact with those changes. Yeah. I want to see when Ezra cuts his hair. What causes that? I want to see like how Kanan grows into his new look. I want to see if Ahsoka comes back and how. I want to see more characters get added to the whole Rebel alliance that's forming. I want Sabine to finally become interesting.
It happened! Dude, she hasn't spoken in like 10 episodes.
Mostly like Thrawn and Sabine. Those are the two I'm looking the most forward to.
Yeah, I would say so too. Yeah.
I'm excited for Thrawn. Oh, I'm excited for Big B too.
Big B's coming up. I mean, really, the whole time I started this, I was really just the most excited for the ending and to cry every episode, and that'll be pretty chill. Can't wait. I'm excited for the Rebels to sort of like diverge from Clone Wars and from like the established Star Wars stuff and sort of become its own thing. Because I really think, in my opinion, that's when Rebels is at its best. is when it's just focused on the family and telling the story of the family and watching the family grow, because it most certainly will continue to grow as the stories progress. But because this is like the most connected to the main story, I feel like it is this episode. It's like 100% like it's like the type of deal where like, oh, you haven't watched Rebels, you haven't watched Ahsoka fight Darth Vader, and like you're missing out on the main story. Like if you like Star Wars and if you like Darth Vader, like this is like at this point like a completely inseparable and like invaluable story for you to experience.
And then you'll get spoiled from it from YouTube, and then you won't start watching the whole show.
Don't do that. Watch the show. But I really am excited to have watched Kanan and Ezra evolve. And so concludes season 2 of Star Wars Rebels. We are halfway through, and also really close to the end of this. I mean, we've done a lot.
20 episodes left, something like that?
Yeah.
Thank God.
20 episodes left of the podcast, and like 2 seasons left of Rebels, and then, nuts.
And then we're never talking to each other ever again.
Yeah, see you guys.
Peace out.
Girl Scout. Just kidding.
We're all boys.
It's your boy, Jessica.
My name's Jordan.
My name is Keats.
My name's Yates. Next week, we're watching the season 3 premiere. I believe it's Steps into Shadow Part 1 and Part 2. And Holocrons of Fate. May the Force be with you.